Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here. So today I wanted to cover the Here's the Storm PTR patch notes for December 5th. These changes are generally the same that you'll expect to see when the patch actually comes to live servers, so not too much will change for this patch, most likely. So I'm not going to cover everything. I'm just going to kind of go over balance changes and the matchmaking changes. So here we have Hero League is now solo queue, and if you want to do any kind of grouping and party system, you have to do Team League. I really like these changes, and I think they'll be great for the game. I'm actually really excited to do this. Solo queue Hero League probably going to be pretty fun. Uh, and that's pretty much the silver and gold population sizes have changed. So they now, I think it used to be that silver was a lot larger than gold, or one of them was a lot larger than the other. Now they're about the same. And Diamond League is now a lot harder to get into. It's about half the number of players in the previous season. So these are two pretty significant, very significant changes for matchmaking. A lot of people I'm sure, will be will talking about that. But Ragnos, the new hero, I haven't gone over him yet. I haven't seen the new Haunted Mines yet. I expect it to be better, but I haven't played it. I haven't seen it. Haven't done any kind of research on it yet. Artifacts were updated for Artanis, Dehaka, Diablo, which are the three main heroes that were changed this patch. And Pyroblast and Particle Grain also got some changes, so that's nice. Sylve was reduced in price. So here's some more changes. So now apparently you can show your role in draft lobby. I'm not sure how that shows up realistically in the game, but that's pretty interesting. Penalties for leaving game and matchmaking are more severe, which is great because it's nothing more annoying than constantly getting leavers when they don't like the team or something. And now you can see your in the MVP screen, you can now see the score screen, which is fantastic. So this is an interesting change. Unrevealable heroes now that used to shimmer but were unrevealable, no longer shimmer. So I think they're totally invisible. So what this means is that I think it's only for two heroes. I think it only affects Nova and Samuro. So the first part of Samuro's Windwalk when he goes into stealth is uninterruptible. So what I believe now happens is that he's completely invisible. There's no shimmer, and you can't reveal him at all for 1.5 seconds. The other hero that has it is Nova at level 20. So she enters an unremovable stealth for 2 seconds as well. So for those two heroes, I don't believe there's any others. They're completely unrevealable for the time, and they don't show on the map at all. There's no shimmer. They're completely invisible for that time. That's an interesting change. That's a buff for those heroes. We have some map changes. This is just for Brawl. The Zerg Rush on Braxis is a little bit stronger if you don't get any push with it. 3 to 6, I mean, still 6 Zerglings is basically nothing, so, but it helps a little bit to alleviate snowballs. Warhead, they changed it so that basically what it is right now is that Warhead, the nukes scale, um, they don't scale at all until 18 minutes and they get a huge jump. Now it scales per minute, so there's no reason to like hold them until 18 minutes or something. All right, so here's the actual changes. So some of the changes to these heroes are quite significant for Artanis, Dehaka, and Diablo, and maybe even Rehgar a bit. But I'm going to try and not go into too much detail. I don't want this video to be too long. So when the heroes come out, I'll do a video for Diablo, Dehaka, and Artanis. But until they come out, I'm just going to kind of go briefly in what I think about them overall. Okay, so Chromie increases the level reduction for getting talents from 1 to 2 levels. This is a huge, huge, huge change. What this means is that she gets her level 4 talents at level 2. She gets her level 10 talents at level 8. She gets her level 20 talents at 18. This is a very, 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 very big change for Chromie. In addition, they completely removed one talent and put this talent just flat out into the other talent. This is Time Walker's Pursuit, so this is basically Conjurer's Pursuit, except I think when you stack it, it gives you 5% ability power. So this is actually a viable talent now. The fact that it reveals and it gives you mana and it gives you a little bit of a ability power is very strong, and I think it's a viable choice at level 1. I think Chromie is the single most underrated hero in the game, and I am very surprised that she doesn't see more play. She has some of the highest numbers in the game. I think she's completely overtuned. Uh, some of her level 1 damage bases are higher than a lot of heroes that later into the game, like level 16, 20. She's very, very strong right now. I think that if you're a good Chromie player and you can hit your abilities, she's one of the best heroes in the game. KT, they buff Pyroblast, so the cast time is reduced and the range is increased by 30%. This makes Pyroblast a lot better and a lot more annoying to deal with. So this means that Pyroblast is not only probably a good choice, but probably the choice. This is a big, especially since the range is already significant on Pyroblast. A 30% range increase on an already significant range makes it ridiculously large. Ariel, this is a nice change. So now you can see the visual effect when she puts her crown on the target, and this helps the rest of the team understand where the hat is going. I think Blizzard kind of shied away from doing this because they thought it'd be more complicated, but that doesn't even make sense. Rehgar got big buffs. His attack damage was increased from 99 to 120. That is a massive, 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 massive attack damage increase. In addition, and he already had pretty high attack damage for a support, and they increased his lightning shield damage. So this is very significant. And Bloodlust also increases, or it allows you to heal. I think that was the level 20 option before, so you now heal for 3% of the damage that you do. So that, I still don't think Bloodlust is the option, but I could see Rehgar being good in like a pseudo damage role now, kind of going Bloodlust and just committing because he does so much damage on his own, and his Lightning Shield does more damage, and Bloodlust got a big buff. But I think the problem with Bloodlust is the cooldown is still so long. So Stormcaller, this just means that you get a little bit more mana, but I still don't think you take this talent. And Totem Projection now also increases the duration of Earthbind Totem. Still think that you don't take this, especially if maybe if you're going DPS build, but I think there's better options, and I think Cleanse is too important otherwise. I still think Rehgar is a support hero, but now he does a lot more damage than support roles. You don't have to go Bloodlust to benefit from these two buffs. They buffed Farseer's Blessing. I still don't think this is good enough to take it over Storm Shield, and they buffed Gladiator's Washout. So I think this is an additional change, but maybe not. But I still don't think either of these are too good. I think that you still go Storm Shield. Okay, so let's get on to the real changes. So Artanis got a ton of changes, and he feels a lot better. So it says this is the only added functionality to Blade Dash, but it feels a lot better when I've tried it in try mode. It feels a lot quicker and more reactive and sharp, and that makes the ability a lot cleaner to use. So I think that they added something else to Blade Dash, but it doesn't say in the patch notes. So just his feel when you play him with Blade Dash makes him a lot feel just that change makes him a lot better. So this change, this used to be a talent that he'd get, and I believe it still is. It still is a talent here, but they put part of the effect into his his base Blade Dash, so that um, you can take other talents instead. So it's basically just a straight buff. Twin Blades, this means that the range is a little bit more increased and a little bit more reliable, which is nice. Big change here is Phase Prism can now be cast during Blade Dash, and I've tried it. It's really good, like really, 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 really good. It's also very crisp and very clean. There's no delay, and it's very fast. This, if you compare what Phase Prism is like now compared to what it was like when the game was when Artanis was released, it's gotten so many buffs. If you haven't played Artanis since release, try him in try mode with these changes, and it's very crisp, very clean. This adds a lot of playmaking potential. The other big change is shield overload. So they increase the cooldown by 4 seconds, but they increase the activation threshold by from 50 to 75%. So he used to be only effective once he gets to 50% health, but 75%, 50 to 75% is a lot safer kind of health pool to be at. They reduced they reduced the value and they reduced the cooldown here, and they basically made him so he wasn't so tanky, and they gave him a lot more offensive potential. So he was so tanky that you just ignore him, and he did so little damage that he couldn't do anything to your team. So now that he's a lot more effective, he does a lot more damage with some of the other changes too, and his mobility, that he's actually a threat to your team. Uh, Other changes here are again, the shield value isn't too important. At least now you're getting the shield at 75% when you wouldn't even have gotten it before. So what they did here is they moved some of his talents around. So now his level 1 talents are still the same and they're still crap, but level 4 he has better options. So you have 3 really powerful options at level 4 in terms of your shield, and they're all good options except for maybe the Blade Dash here. I think this is bad, but these 2 options are really, really strong at level 4. So this one helps you helps you prevent getting bursted. I don't know how good that one is, but this one seems really good. Level 7, they moved it so you get attack speed at 7 now. So basically, you have a considerable attack speed buff at level 7, which increases your attack speed by 50%. And remember that that'll help reduce the cooldown of shield overload. And then they added a kind of another talent at level 16, where it's kind of like a burning rage kind of ability. Overall, most of the changes are up here around the base kit of him, not his talents. So he's a lot better. He feels a lot better. He was already good. The problem was that he couldn't, he had no mobility, and this phase prism, just this change alone makes him feel a lot better. Okay, so Dehaka also got a lot of changes. The significant changes here are the cooldown reduction, or the cooldown was increased, which is obviously a nerf, but that's the only nerf he got. Um, they increased the heal from adaptation, which makes it actually viable now because 100% is good, 60% was bad. And the burrow, um, you can activate it early now, so you don't have to wait the full 2 seconds, which means so previously you'd activate it and then the enemy team could wait for you to come up and then pop you when you come up. But now you can activate it anytime. And this also has really good synergy with some of his other talents that you can get. So Brush Stalker here, uh, Dehaka gains 15% movement speed while in a bush. So this is a functionality. This is a base level change. This is very, very huge. So when he moves through bushes now, any bush from level 1, he gains movement speed, which is very, very strong. That's a big buff as well. Now, onto his talents. Enduring Storm also got a huge buff. So now, instead of it being, the current version is 50% less damage for the next two charges. It's now 40% less damage from abilities uh, permanently, like whenever Dark Swarm is active. That's really, really strong. That's such a big buff. Those are really significant changes so far. Just the changes so far make him like almost first pick worthy, and this change on top of that makes him really good against any kind of burst. This change is kind of weird. So they completely changed how enhanced agility works. So it's no longer passive, and now it only works in bushes. I don't think you'll get this talent at all anymore, ever. I mean, you never really did currently anyway. So at level 4, they merged Numbing Eruption and Lurker Strain. Lurker Strain, I think, is the invisible one, where you go into stealth. So now, not only do you go into stealth, but you also come up um, and knock enemies away and slow their movement speed. And you can also, since you can activate Burrow earlier, this talent also becomes a lot better. So this level 4 talent here became so like exponentially better with all of these changes combined. Nothing changed at 7, nothing changed at 10 besides the adaptation. So at 13, we have some more changes. So he no longer has crap 13 talents. All of these are now really good. Um, this one increases his cooldown from the duration, sorry, from 1 to 3, which is nice. But this change increases his damage by 25%. That's pretty good. Even though he's a tank, he still does pretty good damage. But this one increases all enemies affected by Dark Swarm take 50% increased damage from all sources. And this, I checked in the game, it only lasts for 0.75 seconds. But if you're in the middle of their team's taking 50% more damage. Really, really strong talent. Again, like insanely powerful. So now at 16, Dehaka used to have totally crap talents. Um, Now he has this totally new talent called Tunneling Claws, which Dehaka can move while burrowed. So another really good burrow buff. That's I like you try it and so if you take this, so if you can consider all these things, he can release dig the burrow whenever he wants. His level 4 talent, he can go invisible, he goes into stealth, and he can knock away enemies, and he slows their movement speed, and he can dig, and he can move while burrowed. So all those changes together make that so much more impactful. He actually has some kind of mobility. Before he felt so clunky, and now with this change to his E and being able to have movement speed when you go into bushes from level 1, he's going to feel so much smoother. So these are really, really big changes. And then because they changed adaptation, the base level, now this is increased to 200%. So now instead of 100%, he gains 200% incoming damage. But they removed Hardened Shield. So again, still a buff. Um, Hardened Shield is really strong, obviously, but at least they kind of changed that with the adaptation change here. And they added a new talent as well instead of Hardened Shield, and that is he slows enemies by 20% and he gains 5 essence. So that's a decent talent. I'm not sure. I think you still go Apex pretty much 100%. Or if you went to adaptation, you get this talent. Okay, on to Diablo. So Diablo got significant changes, and I actually think that Diablo got the most significant changes. So I'm not sure if he's the best out of the three here that we're looking at, uh, in terms of like how good he is. He's still really, really good. He could be the best, but he definitely got the most impactful changes from like where he is now to where he will be. So he got really, really big changes. Okay, so Shadow Charge, they reduce the damage, whatever. But now, when you charge, you gain resistance for 25% for 2 seconds. And if you hit them into a wall, they take an additional 150 damage. So this 150 damage way outweighs the 94 to 75. Um, Now they nerfed the base damage of Fire Stomp, but they added um, this to make it based on this used to be a talent. So although he does less damage now, but he's a lot tankier, which is better because he just died. It didn't matter how much damage he did because he would just die as a tank. And this change is also super impactful. So point 2 to point 4, what this means is that when you were fully stacked with health stones, it increased your max health by 20%, and now it increases your max health by 40%. So on top of this resistance, you also have an extra 20% max health, and you'll see the talents also further buff that. So level 1, they did massive changes here. All of his two of his level 1 talents are really good. This regen thing is pretty crap, but this talent here increases the resistance effect from 2 seconds to 5 seconds, which is very, very long, especially since the cooldown is only like 12 seconds and you can reduce it later. And they added this talent, Life Leech. So what Life Leech is when you it's basically a like OP giant killer. So when you kind of, so when oh no, it's an OP giant killer, yeah, for sure, actually. So when you auto attack a hero on Diablo now and you have this talent, you deal 1% of their max health and you heal for that 1% of their max health. So it's like a really shit Spectral Leech from Leoric's level 20 talent, but you get it at level 1. So totally worth it. Really, really good. Because Leo's does 5, but Diablo also has a faster attack speed. Diablo hits considerably faster than Leo, so it's not that much worse. It's a lot worse actually, but Spectral Leech is a level 20 talent on Leoric, and this is a talent on Diablo where he attacks faster and he's a lot tankier, and he can be in the midst of the fight and constantly auto attacking. So you're gonna get more value than Spectral Leech throughout the game by far with Life Leech. So level 4, he has some other changes. Uh, they move some stuff around. The important thing to take away here is he has this new talent. He gets movement speed. I don't think it's that good. Um, and you have an extra slow here, and you have increases the range of Shadow Charge by 33%. That's an added functionality. So what this change was, if you knock an enemy hero into a wall, I believe it increased the stun. They're stunned for an extra zero point 0.5 seconds. So now it also increases the range of Shadow Charge by 33%. So that's a nice change as well. So his level 4 talents are all viable now. At level 7, they changed this to make it the way of Myrden. So Myrden's change last patch was his battle momentum no longer affects all of his basic abilities. It only affects 2 of them. But the cooldown reduction is extremely high, 1.5 seconds per auto attack for Shadow Charge and Overpower. So that's a lot of cooldown reduction. Even if you only get 3 auto attacks in, that's 4.5 seconds off. And that's a huge, 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 huge change. Uh, so there's some other changes here. This change is very significant. Each black soulstone stack for Diablo grants them 35.35 resistance to enemy abilities. So what this means, okay, is if you have 100 soulstones, you have 35% permanently 35% resistance to abilities. Okay, that's spell shield is 50%. You have 35%. So this, and you have more max health, right? So you have 40% more max health. You will revive when you die, and you have 35% resistance to abilities. So he is very snowbally now. So if you get ahead on Diablo, you're not going to die. And if you do die, you're going to spawn again anyway. So he's very snowbally now. So other changes, his level 10s are the same. 13s are a little bit different. So all of his 13s now just do a ton of damage. I'm not sure which one's the best, but they basically increase the damage of all his abilities, which is nice. They moved his level 4 to his level 13 here. And then at 16, we have some interesting changes. Um, these aren't that interesting, but this one, this Fearful Presence, which is kind of a super buffed up imposing presence. So heroes and summons attack Diablo have their attack speed reduced by 20 seconds for 2.5 seconds, which is standard. I think imposing is identical. The active, however, reduces damage dealt by nearby heroes by 30%. So regular imposing slows the attack speed and movement speed by 50%. So this is just damage by 30%. That's super OP. This is really, really strong. So I think this is a must-have at 16. And then at level 20, they went even more insane by buffing a standard talent. So Bolts of the Storm, obviously really good. I think it's a 90-second cooldown. Maybe it's a 70-second cooldown, but the cooldown's long. It's the same cooldown as Hellgate. And not only do you blink, the blink is a little bit shorter than Bolt of the Storm, but when you blink, it gives you an APOC spawn on the spot that you blink. So not only does Diablo have blink at 20, he also has an Apocalypse spawn that he can do. So he can blink and then you can combo and then blink them onto the APOC spot, which is very strong. So not only is it a blink, it also gives you a free APOC. So even if you go Lightning Breath, you have APOC, or if you go Apocalypse, now you have 2 APOC charges on the same target. Because previously what you do is you'd cast Apocalypse and then combo, and you'd be able to combo them on the spot to get a guaranteed stun. So this is an insanely good change, like really, really strong changes. So I think overall, so if you think about he has resistance now, right? He has 20% more max health, so he gets 40% more max health. He has the 35% reduction in ability damage. So all those changes together are significant. And resistance and the ability damage reduction stacks and the max health. So that's exponentially tankier. It's gonna be a lot stronger. And the last change here is just um, kind of a nice little buff to particle grenade, which is nice. Makes her a little bit cleaner. And the rest are bug fixes. So this is a tank patch for sure. All three of these tanks here, Artanis, Dehaka, and Diablo, are going to get big buffs. And Rehgar got a big buff, and KT and Chromie, all big. Every hero here basically got buffed. I don't think any of them really got nerfed at all. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope it wasn't too rambly. And until next time, talk to you later.